My parents threatened to disown me unless I cosigned my sister's mortgage. I refused, shut down every account she touched, ignored dozens of angry calls, left the country, and finally built a life completely free of their control. Now they beg me daily. Hey, Reddit! My sister's been spoiled her whole life, and my parents always let it slide. I worked hard, saved up, and finally got ahead. But the second they found out, all hell broke loose. Before I get into the madness at the airport and the screaming matches, let me take you back to where it all started. I'm Elias, 27, and I work in tech. Nothing glamorous, I'm not coding rocket ships or anything like that. Mostly back-end support and system stuff. The big news for me recently was a promotion. I'd been grinding at my company for a few years, and last month they bumped me up to a lead role. That came with a decent raise. Not life-changing money, but enough that for the first time, I felt like all those nights of studying certifications and working overtime actually paid off. I live alone in a one-bedroom place. It's not fancy. White walls, IKEA desk, a couch I bought secondhand, but it's mine. Rent is manageable, and I've always kept a close eye on my spending. Groceries, gym membership, utilities. That's about it. My fun money is a gaming PC and the occasional takeout. I keep spreadsheets for my budget because, honestly, it makes me feel in control. I like knowing where every dollar goes. Part of that habit comes from my family. My older sister, Serena, is 31, and to put it bluntly, she has never been good with money. Growing up, she'd get an allowance and blow it in 2 days. Later, when she had credit cards, she maxed them out on clothes, phones, random gadgets. Every few months, there was some kind of emergency. Car repair, late rent, a broken phone. Somehow, I always ended up involved, usually after she'd gone crying to our parents. Victor, our dad, and Claudia, our mom, always brushed it off. They'd say things like, "She just needs a little help to get back on her feet," or, "You're the responsible one, Elias, you can spare it." If I ever pushed back, I was the cold younger brother who didn't understand family comes first. This routine has been going on for years. I can name at least 5 times I covered bills that were supposed to be temporary and never saw the money again. After the last emergency, I quietly did a short consult with a lawyer. Their advice, document everything and set firm boundaries, stuck with me. So with this new promotion, I made a move I'd been planning for a while. I shifted a chunk of my savings into a separate account. The idea was simple. Build a foundation for big life moves. Maybe a down payment someday, maybe travel, maybe a small side business. It wasn't about flexing or hoarding cash. It was about stability. After watching Serena stumble from one financial mess to another, I was determined not to end up like that. The problem is, my family talks too much. Last weekend, I was on a video call with my parents, just casual catch-up. We talked about work, meals, random stuff. At one point, Mom asked how I was doing with savings, and I said, "Going well, I moved some into a different account for future plans." That was it. No big reveal. I didn't realize how fast that information would spread. The very next day, Serena showed up at my apartment. She doesn't usually come over unannounced, so right away I knew something was up. She walked in all smiles, carrying an iced coffee, acting like it was just a casual visit. I made us tea, and she started asking about my promotion, how much extra I was making, whether I was thinking of buying a place soon. I kept my answers short. Then she said, "So, I actually need a little help." She paused, like she wanted me to be curious. I wasn't. She went on anyway. "It's about a mortgage thing. I've been approved for this condo I really want, but the bank says I need a co-signer, just to strengthen the application. It's basically done if you sign. You don't even have to pay anything. It's just paperwork." I didn't answer right away. She took my silence as hesitation and pushed harder. "Come on, Elias, you're single. You've got money just sitting there. You don't even do anything with it. This would mean a lot to me." That part stuck with me. You don't even do anything with it. That's Serena's whole perspective. If money isn't being spent immediately, it's wasted. She has no idea what it means to plan, to delay gratification, to think long-term. To her, savings equals spare change, just waiting for someone else to grab. I told her calmly that I wasn't comfortable co-signing. I explained that my credit and my future would be tied to that mortgage. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're being dramatic. It's literally just a form. I'll be the one paying." We went in circles for a few minutes. She tried guilt. "I've always looked out for you, now it's your turn." She tried flattery. "You're so responsible, that's why the bank would approve it instantly." And then she dropped the line I knew was coming. "If you won't do this, then you're basically saying you don't care about me." I told her flat out, "I'm not signing anything." Her smile vanished. She gathered her things, muttered something about me being selfish, and left. That night, my phone buzzed once with a message from Victor. Serena told me you're refusing. Sign the mortgage or don't bother coming back around here. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't just Serena asking for a favor. This was about to turn into a full-scale family war. After that first blow-up at my apartment, Serena didn't waste much time. 2 days later, she texted me saying, "Let's talk over coffee, my treat." I figured it was just going to be more of the same, but I agreed anyway. At that point, I wanted to see how far she'd go. We met at this cafe downtown that we both knew. She showed up late, of course, strutting in with her phone on speaker, laughing at something some friend said. She didn't even apologize, just sat down and launched straight into talking about the condo she wanted. No small talk, no how's work. Just floor plans, great location. I'll finally have space for a walk-in closet. Then she leaned in and said, "So, are you ready to do this?" Because honestly, Elias, the bank only needs your signature. This isn't even about money. I told her, "I'm not signing, Serena." I kept my voice calm. She blinked at me like she hadn't heard right. "What do you mean you're not signing? You've always got money saved. You're not even using it. This is what family is for. I'm trying to actually build something, and you're just hoarding cash like a dragon." I reminded her that co-signing isn't some symbolic gesture. It legally ties me to her debt. If she misses payments, my credit tanks. If she defaults, I'm on the hook. She rolled her eyes. "You're being so dramatic. I've got this under control. You act like I'm some kind of deadbeat." I laughed at that one because I couldn't help it. "Serena, I've paid off your overdraft 3 times. Remember the time your car broke down and you begged me to cover the repair because Dad said no? Or when your landlord threatened eviction and I wired you rent money so you wouldn't get kicked out? I've got receipts for all of it." Her smile tightened. She switched tactics to guilt. "I'm your sister. I've always been there for you. Don't you remember when I helped you move into this place? Or when I gave you my old iPad? You act like I've never done anything for you." I didn't bite. I just said, "Those are not the same as asking me to risk my financial future." That's when she snapped. She raised her voice loud enough that people at the next table turned their heads. "You're pathetic, Elias. You'd rather watch me fail than help me succeed. You're sitting on piles of cash like some loser with no life. You don't even have a girlfriend. What are you saving for?" I stood up and grabbed my jacket. "I'm saving so I don't end up in situations like yours. And I'm not signing. End of story." She muttered something under her breath as I walked out. By the time I got home, Victor texted the same ultimatum. I stared at that text for a while. It wasn't the first time he'd tried to throw his weight around, but this one hit different. It wasn't a request. It was an order. Like I was still a kid he could boss around. I typed back one message. "Not happening. Please stop." That was all. I wasn't going to argue. After that, I decided to stop underestimating how far Serena would go. I knew she still had access to a couple of things from years back. Old joint accounts, a store credit card we once used for a family purchase. I'd once, stupidly, linked my savings as overdraft protection on a joint account she used. I removed the link and closed that account for good. It hit me that if she was desperate enough, she might try to dip into anything she could still reach. That night, I sat down at my desk and started making calls. First, the bank. I closed the old joint account completely, then requested fraud alerts on my personal ones. I asked them to require ID verification for any changes, even phone numbers. Then I pulled out every card I had that had her name on it as an authorized user and had them canceled. I went through my password manager, updating anything that even smelled like it could be connected to her. Old PayPal, Venmo, shared Amazon account we once used for holiday gifts. I put 2-factor authentication on everything, even stuff like Spotify, just to be safe. By the time I was done, I felt strangely clear-headed. For the first time, I wasn't scrambling to fix one of her messes. I was drawing a line. My money, my accounts, my future, mine. If she wanted to crash and burn, that was her problem. When I finally shut my laptop, I realized I wasn't even angry anymore. Just done. Completely done. The morning after I shut down all the accounts Serena had any access to, my phone looked like it had caught fire overnight. I had 21 missed calls, about 30 texts, and a few voicemails stacked up. Half were from Serena, the rest split between Victor and Claudia. The texts followed the usual script. Serena's started with anger. "You can't do this. I need this mortgage. Stop being selfish." Then guilt. "You're destroying this family. I'm your sister. Don't you care?" Then desperation. "Please, Elias. Just sign. I'll handle everything else." Victor's were shorter, like orders. "Final chance. Sign it today." Mom's were long paragraphs, all about family love and You'll regret pushing us away. I didn't answer any of them. By the time I was pouring coffee, my phone rang again. It was my landlord, Mr. Duffy. He's an older guy, pretty laid back, and we've always gotten along fine. He opened with, "Hey Elias, just checking. Are you planning to skip out on the lease?" That threw me. I asked him what he meant. He explained that my sister had called saying I was about to bail on my apartment without paying rent. Supposedly, I was leaving the country and dumping my responsibilities. She even told him to expect me to disappear by the end of the week. I actually laughed. Duffy chuckled too and said, "Figured it didn't sound like you. Just wanted to check." I told him exactly what was going on in broad strokes. Family drama, nothing he needed to worry about. He said not to sweat it and told me he wasn't going to take anything she said seriously. That was a relief. But it made me realize how far Serena was willing to reach. I expected her to keep hammering me with calls, not to start calling other people in my life. Sure enough, around lunchtime, I got a ping on Slack from a coworker. "Hey, not sure what this is about, but thought you should know." Attached was a screenshot of an email Serena sent to our team's shared alias, and she CC'd my manager. My coworker slacked me the screenshot, and I forwarded everything to HR. She used my full name and claimed I was unstable and about to abandon projects. She basically tried to frame me as irresponsible at work, so maybe they'd pressure me. Luckily, my coworker didn't take it seriously. I went straight to HR and forwarded everything. They got back to me within an hour, reassuring me they had my back and that they'd block her emails. They even put a note in my file documenting the harassment, in case she tried again. That was a big weight off my shoulders. At that point, I realized I needed to get systematic about this. I wasn't just going to block numbers and hope for the best. I needed a record. So I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Family Stuff. Inside, I started dropping everything. Screenshots of texts, saved voicemails, copies of emails, dates, times, phone logs. Every little thing went in there. I also opened a simple spreadsheet and listed each incident. Date, who contacted me, what they said, what action I took. It felt overkill at first, but I knew if this escalated into something legal, having everything documented would be worth it. Next, I tightened everything again, reconfirmed 2FA, added extra verification on every account, set fraud alerts, and put verbal passwords on the old insurance policy. It was tedious, but when I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: control. The funny part is, while all this chaos was spinning around me, I wasn't panicking. A year ago, I probably would have folded under the pressure, or at least argued back and forth with them. This time, I didn't feel rattled. I felt steady. By late afternoon, my phone had another pile of missed calls and texts, but I let them sit. Instead, I made dinner, put on a show, and sorted through the documentation I'd collected. I wasn't rushing, just methodically adding to the folder. Serena tried calling again that night, back-to-back 3 times. I picked up once just to hear what she'd say. The second I answered, she started yelling, "What do you think you're doing? You think you can just lock me out of everything? Dad's furious. Mom's crying. You're ruining my life." I waited until she paused for air, then said, "I think I'm making sure my money is mine." She went quiet for a beat, then snapped, "You'll regret this. You can't just cut me off." I hung up. That night, I put my phone on silent and slept fine. For the first time in years, the chaos wasn't on me to fix. And the texts and calls had slowed down for a day, which made me think maybe they were cooling off. That thought didn't last. On a Wednesday afternoon, I was working from home, midway through a video call, when I heard pounding on my apartment door. Not a polite knock, actual pounding. At first, I thought it was delivery gone wrong, or maybe a neighbor. But then I heard Serena's voice yelling my name through the door. A second later, Victor's deeper voice joined in. "Elias, open the door right now. We need to talk." I muted my mic and stepped out of the call. My stomach tightened, but I wasn't shocked. I'd been waiting for something like this. The pounding continued. Serena shouted, "You think you can ignore us? This is family business. You don't get to run away." I didn't open right away. I called back through the door. "I'm working. You can't just show up here." Victor barked, "You're not a child anymore. Stop hiding and open this damn door." At that point, I unlatched the chain lock halfway and opened the door just enough to see them. Serena stood there with her arms crossed, face red, phone in her hand. Victor was next to her, jaw tight, his fist still raised like he was ready to pound again. I said, "I'll make this quick. No cosign, no money, no accounts. That's final." Serena rolled her eyes and pushed closer, trying to look past me into the apartment. "You're being ridiculous." This is literally a signature. I'm already approved. You're making everything harder than it needs to be. I kept my hand on the door, blocking the frame. Doesn't matter. I'm not signing. End it here. Victor leaned in, his voice dropping lower but sharper. You've got no respect. After everything your mother and I did for you. You sit on your money while your sister is trying to build a future. You think that makes you better than us? Right then, Serena spotted my laptop on the little table by the wall inside. She reached forward, trying to step in. What's this? Is this where you move the money? Let me see. I shoved the door tighter and moved my hand between her and the laptop. Don't touch my stuff. My voice was calm, but firm. It wasn't paranoia. She'd tried amateur snooping before, guessing my old email password and poking around my banking app when I once left the laptop unlocked. She recoiled like I'd slapped her. Wow, paranoid much? I just wanted to check something. Victor stepped forward, his face darkening. Is this really how you're going to act? Blocking your own family out? Threatening us? You think this will end well for you? I shook my head. I'm not threatening anyone. But listen carefully. If you keep harassing me, if you mess with my work, if you touch my accounts again, I will involve a lawyer. That stopped them for a second. Serena scoffed but didn't push forward again. Victor looked stunned, like he couldn't believe I'd say that to him. You'd really drag us into court? He asked. If you don't stop, I said. Yes, because this is harassment, and I'm documenting every bit of it. There was a long silence. I didn't move. Neither did they. Finally, Serena threw her hands up and said, You're insane. You'd rather waste money on lawyers than help your own sister. Victor muttered, ungrateful, under his breath, then grabbed Serena by the elbow. Come on. We're wasting our time. She pulled back, shouting, This isn't over, Elias! You're going to regret this. You can't just walk away from family. I shut the door and slid the chain back across. My hands weren't shaking. I felt steady. As soon as I heard them stomp down the hallway, I went to my desk and pulled up my notes app. I logged the time, 3:42 p.m., and wrote a clear summary. Serena and Victor showed up unannounced, demanded entry, tried to pressure me to co-sign. Serena attempted to grab laptop. I told them no, and warned about legal action. They left angry. I attached the summary to the folder where I'd been keeping everything. Then I opened my phone camera roll. Earlier, while they were shouting, I had snapped a quick picture through the crack of the door showing them in the hallway. I added that too. Finally, I sent an email to the lawyer I'd consulted months back. Subject line, Family Harassment Update. I kept it short, explained what happened, attached the notes and photo, and asked what steps I should take next if they came back. Within 20 minutes, the lawyer responded, Good job documenting. Keep records of every incident. If they continue, we can file a restraining order for harassment. Don't engage beyond stating boundaries. Reading that email, I felt a wave of relief. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't cornered. I had options. By the time I sat back down at my computer, my work call had ended, and my inbox was quiet. But the hallway incident kept playing in my head. Not in a panicky way, just a reminder of how far they were willing to go. I knew then this wasn't the peak. It was only going to escalate from here. After the door incident with Serena and Victor, I realized nothing was going to change. They weren't going to back off, and every day I stayed, I was leaving doors open for them to keep pushing. So I made the decision. I was leaving. Before I bought the ticket, I cleared it with HR. My lead role could go fully remote from abroad. We set expectations on hours, security, and travel dates. Once that was greenlit, I pulled the trigger. Not just leaving town for a week or crashing at a friend's place. I was leaving the country. I'd been thinking about it for a while anyway. I've got 2 college friends living abroad who'd been telling me there were openings where they work, and I had the savings to make the jump. That night, I opened my laptop, searched flights, and bought a one-way ticket. I wasn't starting from zero. For months, I'd kept a loose go-bag plan. Scanned IDs, a sublet checklist, and a short list of accounts to close. So moving fast was doable. The flight was set for 10 days out. That gave me enough time to close everything down properly. I pulled out a notebook and made a checklist. First on the list, my apartment. I wasn't going to break the lease and run. I called Mr. Duffy, my landlord, and explained I was moving abroad sooner than expected. We set up a plan for me to sublet the place legally. He even gave me a couple of names of people who'd been looking. Within 3 days, I had someone lined up to take over. Next was utilities. I called the electric, internet, and water companies, told them my move-out date, and paid off balances. I set up a mail forwarding service with a virtual address that forwards overseas, so nothing could be intercepted. It cost a little extra, but it meant Serena couldn't intercept anything if she tried snooping. Then I went through my bank accounts again. I'd already locked them down, but now I changed every password one more time, using long random passphrases. I set up new recovery emails that only I had access to. I also moved part of my savings into a separate online bank I knew Serena didn't even know existed. That way, even if she tried something desperate, she'd hit a wall. I did the same with my phone. New PIN, new carrier password, and I even ordered a temporary international SIM for when I landed. I didn't want any gaps where she could sweet-talk a rep into messing with my account. After that, I backed up everything important. Work files, personal docs, scanned IDs, all of it went onto an encrypted drive I could carry in my bag. I uploaded copies to cloud storage with two-factor authentication. I wasn't taking chances with identity theft or accidental interference. The last big part of the checklist wasn't technical. It was social. I knew Serena had already called my landlord and my workplace, so there was no telling who she'd try next. I messaged a few close friends, the ones I actually trusted, and gave them a heads up. I told them straight. Serena might spin stories. Ignore anything she says. Here's what's actually happening. Most of them weren't surprised. They'd seen glimpses of how entitled she was over the years. 3 days before my flight, Claudia made her move. I came home from the gym and found her sitting on the steps outside my building. She wasn't yelling or pounding like Serena had. She was just sitting there, hands folded, staring at the door. As soon as she saw me, she stood up. "Elias, we need to talk," she said softly. I unlocked the door, but didn't invite her in. "Mom, I already told you. I'm not discussing this here." She shook her head, eyes watery. "Your sister is falling apart. She can't do this without you. Do you really want to destroy our family like this?" I pulled out my phone and typed a quick text to her while standing 3 feet away. "Not discussing this at the door. Please leave." She read it when her phone buzzed, looked at me like I'd stabbed her, and sat back down on the step. "I'll wait then," she whispered. She stayed there for almost 4 hours. I could hear her pacing outside, sometimes muttering things like, "He's not like this, he's a good boy," or, "Victor won't forgive him if he doesn't fix this." It was uncomfortable, but I didn't open the door. By 9 p.m., she finally left. That sealed it for me. If they were willing to camp outside my building just to guilt me, there was no way this would stop. Leaving wasn't just an idea anymore. It was survival. That night, I started packing. I wasn't taking much. 1 checked suitcase, 1 carry-on. Clothes, electronics, the encrypted drive, important documents, and that was it. I left behind furniture, old clothes, even kitchen stuff. None of it mattered compared to getting out clean. As I zipped the bag shut, it hit me that this wasn't temporary. I wasn't running for a week to cool off. I was making a permanent cut. For the first time in my life, it felt final. And the day of my flight came quicker than I expected. 10 days had gone by in a blur of packing, closing accounts, and making sure every loose end was tied up. My bags were zipped, apartment keys ready for the sublet, and documents tucked in my carry-on. I took one last look around the place. Empty shelves, bare desk, quiet. Then I locked the door behind me and rolled my suitcase out to the street. I called a rideshare to the airport. The driver made small talk about the weather, traffic, and football. I nodded along, but my eyes stayed on the city rolling past the window. Every corner felt familiar, but instead of nostalgia, it just felt heavy. Too many arguments, too many forced obligations tied to this place. When the car pulled up to the terminal, I spotted them before I even stepped out. Serena, Victor, and Claudia were standing near the doors, scanning the crowd. My chest sank, but I wasn't surprised. Of course they'd found out. Serena saw me first. She stormed forward, waving her arms like she was flagging down a lost kid. "Elias? Stop right there!" Her voice carried, loud enough that people turned to look. Victor followed right behind her, phone out, already recording like he was gathering evidence. Claudia trailed a few steps back, wringing her hands, looking like she was about to cry. The driver glanced at me, unsure. I handed him cash for the tip and stepped out. My suitcase wheels rattled on the curb. Serena cut me off in front of the sliding doors. "You can't leave. You can't just walk away from us like this. The condo deal is falling apart. I need you." Victor raised his phone higher, circling around to get me on camera. "Look at this. This is what selfishness looks like. Abandoning your family at the airport." Claudia's voice broke as she called out, "Elias, please listen to your mother. Don't do this. Don't destroy everything we built together as a family." I stopped, looked at all 3 of them, and spoke once. "I'm not your bank." Serena's face twisted. "That's what this is about? Money? You think you're better than us just because you hoard it?" I didn't answer. I pushed past her, wheeled my suitcase through the automatic doors, and joined the line at security. Behind me, Serena was shouting. Victor kept filming. Claudia begged me to come back. People stared, some whispered. A TSA agent stepped forward and told them they couldn't block the entrance. They argued with him for a minute before being pushed back toward the exit. I handed over my passport and boarding pass, slipped off my shoes, and dropped my laptop in the tray. The usual shuffle of airport security felt strangely grounding. Everyone else was just going about their business. Families wrangling kids, business travelers typing on phones, couples whispering about snacks for the flight. Their noise drowned out Serena's yelling behind the glass. Once I was through the checkpoint, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. At the gate, I found a seat by the window. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and sent 2 quick messages. One to HR. I'm officially en route. I'll be online Monday from abroad per our plan. Thanks again for approving the international remote setup. Another to my landlord. Apartment is cleared. Sublet has moved in. Thank you for making this smooth. Then I shut my phone off completely. No buzzing, no notifications, no last-minute guilt messages. Just silence. Boarding was called. I walked down the jet bridge, found my seat, stowed my bag, and sat down. When the plane started taxiing, I closed my eyes. The pressure in my chest finally eased. Hours later, when the plane touched down, I felt lighter than I had in years. I stepped out into a new city, cooler air hitting my face as I cleared customs. Waiting by the exit was Mateo, a college buddy who'd been living there for 3 years. He grinned, waved, and clapped me on the back as soon as I walked out. Man, you made it, he said. Yeah, I said. I made it. He helped me load my bag into his car. On the drive, he pointed out landmarks, little things like where to buy cheap groceries, which gym had the best rates, the shortcut to the subway. I nodded, soaking it all in. Every street we passed was new, but for once the unknown felt good. That night, I crashed at his apartment. We ordered takeout from a noodle shop down the block. Sitting at his small kitchen table, I ate quietly, letting the reality sink in. No one pounding on my door. No buzzing phone stacked with demands. No threats of sign or don't come back. I wasn't looking over my shoulder anymore. For the first time, I felt like the weight had finally lifted. A few weeks passed after I landed abroad, and the silence from my family didn't last long. It started with Claudia sending me a carefully worded email. The subject line was, "We can fix this." Inside, it was paragraphs about how Serena's mortgage was falling apart because I abandoned her. She wrote that the bank was pulling the offer. Serena was devastated, and Victor was disappointed beyond words. I didn't reply. I had already expected this outcome. Without my signature, the deal couldn't go through. Serena had no cosigner, no savings, and no track record of financial responsibility. The bank did what banks do. They said no. A week later, Victor sent a blunt follow-up. You did this. If your sister loses the condo, it's on you. Don't bother coming back. Again, I didn't reply. I wasn't ignoring out of spite. I was ignoring because there was nothing to discuss. They'd made it clear this was all or nothing, sign or be cut off. I chose cut off. Eventually, word spread to the extended family. Cousins, uncles, random relatives who hadn't texted me in years suddenly popped up in the family group chat. Some took Serena's side. She just needed a hand. Why couldn't you help? Others stayed neutral, asking me to explain my perspective. Normally, I would have avoided the drama, but this time I decided to leave one clear mark before walking away. I dropped 2 screenshots into the chat. One showed a bank transfer from 2 years ago, when I'd covered Serena's rent after she claimed she'd pay me back. The other was a message thread, where she'd promised to return the money for a car repair I'd fronted. Neither had ever been repaid. I added one sentence. I've bailed Serena out more times than I can count. I won't co-sign her debts. This is final. Then I left the group chat. The fallout was messy for a few days. My phone buzzed with messages from cousins trying to drag me back into the conversation. I didn't answer. I had already said my piece, and I wasn't going to keep debating my own boundaries. While all this was unfolding back home, my life abroad was settling into something steady. Mateo helped me find a short-term room in a shared flat. The place wasn't fancy, bare walls, a lumpy couch in the common area, but it was clean, and the rent was affordable. I unpacked the essentials, set up my laptop, and got back to work. Within the first 2 weeks, I picked up 2 small freelance contracts on the side. Nothing huge, just enough to keep my skills sharp and diversify income while I kept my lead role. Work settled into a rhythm. Core hours for my lead role, then a couple of evenings a week for the side contracts. I didn't cut my family off entirely. Once a month, I sent a short email to Claudia and Victor. Nothing emotional, just polite updates. I'm fine. Work is steady. I'm healthy. I didn't mention money, Serena, or the mortgage. Sometimes Claudia replied with guilt-tinged lines like, "Your sister still cries every night," or "You'll regret leaving us behind." Victor rarely wrote more than, "We're disappointed." I didn't take the bait. At the same time, I prepared for the worst. My lawyer had already advised me to expect more attempts to interfere, so I kept everything documented. Every email, every voicemail, every message went into the family stuff folder. The lawyer even sent me a draft harassment letter that I could send if things escalated. It basically said, "Cease contacting me outside of agreed boundaries, or legal action will follow." I never had to use it, but just having it ready gave me peace of mind. I also put long-term protections in place. Fraud alerts stayed active on all my accounts. I flagged my credit so any attempt to open new lines in my name would require direct verification. My phone plan and email accounts were double locked with authentication apps. Every time I tightened security, I felt another layer of control settle in. Meanwhile, Serena's story started crumbling back home. From what I heard through distant relatives, the condo deal officially collapsed. Without the cosign, the bank pulled the offer. She tried to scramble for other options, but her credit history shut doors left and right. Victor and Claudia had no leverage to pressure me anymore, and that became obvious to everyone. A cousin messaged me privately one night. "Honestly, everyone sees what's happening now. Don't feel guilty. She did this to herself." For once, I didn't feel like I had to defend myself. Months passed, and my new life took shape. I built up a client list for freelance work. My gym routine stuck. I joined a hiking group that met every Saturday morning, and by the third month, I had my own circle of friends who didn't know me as the family ATM. And they knew me as Elias, the guy who cracked jokes on the trail, who meal prepped for the week, who actually enjoyed spreadsheets. I never bragged about what happened. I didn't need to. Whenever I thought about Serena, Victor, and Claudia, it wasn't anger anymore. It was distance. A clean, clear line between me and them. I still send that monthly email. One short update, no emotion. It's not for them as much as it is for me. Proof that I'm not running or hiding. I'm just living on my terms. And that's really the point. I'm not saying I'm a hero or some saint who broke free from shackles. I'm just a guy who finally stopped letting his family treat him like a backup wallet. I made my decision, followed through, and built something better. For the first time, I feel free. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.